capitalism and what it's like to be a woman who owns a multi-million-dollar company. I can talk about fashion for probably 10 days, maybe longer. Maybe I'll try to break the Guinness World Book of Records next year for the most irrelevant fashion talks. Have most of you read my first book or no? Okay, cool. Thank you. You didn't? Okay, well, I'll buy one for you. Here. I get it. Oh, you already have one there?
I have this one.
Which one? You have that one. Okay, you don't have the new book yet? But you haven't read, you already have it, so I don't have to. Otherwise, I like to buy some books when I go to indie bookstores. Support. So, there's a lot of things that we can do, and we can do a Q&A. Usually it's best if I break the ice and start talking for a few minutes, but since this is a short talk, it's 40 minutes to an hour, I think I'll talk a shorter amount of time, and then we can open it up to a Q&A, and you can ask me anything from questions about, that's right, I'm here in your bookstore. Keep walking. You coming over? No? Oh, hi, girls. You can ask me anything from questions about the hills or the city to business to personal life to mom to drugs to alcohol to God to the mother, whatever you want to talk about. Okay? There's nothing that you can't ask me. And if you don't want to ask a question out loud, you can pass it over to me on paper, and I'll read it later and answer it for you, okay? Okay. So, let's see here. I wrote, If You Have to Cry, Go Outside, and Other Things Your Mother Never Told You, basically as a primer of what I thought, you know, geez, I wish somebody told me this, because I had to go through all of these mistakes and all of these problems. If somebody had told me, you know, that I was going to go to work in a world that was not going to be PC, and that just because I was great or thought I was great, it didn't mean that I was always going to be treated great. And anytime that you make over $55,000 a year, you have something called a career normally, and that's not a 9-to-5 job. And I didn't know any of those things, and I really believed that women and men were equal, and that I could do anything that I put my mind to, and, you know, that I was entitled to a balanced life, you know, of like going home from work and having a husband and living happily ever after and making a ton of money, and kind of like a Barbie world. And then I got to New York City, and I found that things weren't quite that way. And I wrote that book, and the premise of that book was, I believe that a lot of young women are programmed, a lot of people, it's not just young women, just programmed to do a certain thing. And it's not just economics, you know, because it's rich kids too, like rich kids like, you know, well, you have to be a dentist because your father's a dentist, or your grandfather's a dentist, or who's going to run the family business, or, you know, you need to become a doctor because that's what we do here, or on the other side, you know, no, you're not going to be able to do that because things like that don't happen to people like us. So I found from working with so many young women that the one universal thing is that by the time they were about 27, whether they were making $55,000 or $200,000 in my office, their moms were on the phone. And they wanted to know when they were going to settle down. And they wanted to know why they weren't getting married. And they wanted to know when they were going to have a baby. And who's going to take care of them. But you can't live like this. And you can't have this type of lifestyle forever. I mean, I think Barbara Walters would disagree, but the moms were pretty much on, you know, on patrol to make sure that their daughters were following through. And different religions, different ethnicities, the moms were doing it at 24 or 32, but it was pretty much across the board the same thing. So I was like, okay, and my mom, I just want to say, still does it to me. Okay, like I'm 45 years old. I've been divorced twice. I have a child with a third person. I own a multi-million-dollar company, and this is what my mom does. When are you going to settle down? Mom, I'm kind of busy right now. I'm on 2 TV shows. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I'm executive producing 3 shows I'm not on. I run a PR company, and I'm a little tired. Kelly, God forbid if you have a stroke. Who is going to take care of you and your daughter? And I'm thinking, most of the guys that I know, if I'm like drooling in a wheelchair after having a stroke, are not going to be sticking around. They're going to be sleeping with my nurse. And not all. I'm not all. Okay, I'm not a male basher, so you don't have to represent. Don't worry, I'm all for the guys. I have a child. I've, you know, been married. I'm not against the guys. I'm speaking that we can't really live our lives with or have somebody there because they're going to take care of us when things go bad. You know, or they're going to buy us a bag, or they're going to help us buy a house. Like, that's not the reason, in my opinion, to be with somebody. So that book was, I think, struck a chord with a lot of young people, and I'm grateful that it did. And then I wrote this new book, and it's called Normal Gets You Nowhere. because the next thing is that I started to get to talk to a lot of you as a result of having written the first book, and people are writing into me, and there's a lot of pressure on young people to be normal. You know, I just met a kid who was at my book signing in New York who was gay, and he went to Brigham Young University, and he was raised as a Mormon, and he read my book, and he went and told his parents that he was gay, and his parents beat him up. And they go, we don't know who this girl is, but, you know, you're gay, and we're Mormons, and they literally beat him up, and he moved to New York, and he's living there, and he's happy, and he's finally, like, working things out with his mom. But, you know, there's a lot of pressure for people to be normal and to fit in, and when I started thinking about people who are really successful, most of them were not normal, you know, and people who changed the world or changed themselves, most of them were not normal. Like Rosa Parks was not normal. It was not normal for a dark-skinned woman on a bus to stand up and say, hi, you guys, glad you can make it. How are you? They're my friends' kids, so. But Rosa Parks, you know, she stood up one day and said, you know, I'm not going to ride in the back of that bus, there's no way. Just, I'm not doing this anymore. Harriet Tubman, who, you know, was a slave who escaped, you know, she had a gun in her hand and a bottle of bourbon. Like, she was not messing around. That was not normal. She got a gun and a bottle of bourbon. It was like, stand back, bam, and out the door she went. And she helped 70 other people do it. And Amelia Earhart, you know, not normal. Here's a woman, you know, at a time when women didn't have the right to vote, who decided she wanted to fly around the world. So this book is an offering from me of things that are on my mind that I think are important to think about. Each chapter is little vignettes about things that are important to me, from death and being with our families and looking after elderly people to helping homeless people to having a great sex life, chapter 2, if you girls want to know what to turn to. Called the Kela Sutra. It has a little subchapter. I'm not going to say what it is because I'm not going to say the F word today. Everybody wants me to, and I'm not doing it unless I get paid more money. I like how the book opens because there's two quotes. One's from John Lennon about normalcy, and it says, I'm not going to change the way I look or the way I feel to conform to anything. I've always been a freak, so I've been a freak all my life, and I have to live with that. You know, I'm just one of those people. And the other one is from Johnny Depp, and it says, I was always fascinated by people who are considered completely normal because I find them the weirdest of all. And I'm going to read the beginning of this book. I found this, I have a country house which is very close to the Buddhist Center of America. It's the largest Buddhist center. And I was getting bored praying at the Buddha because it's really quiet. And I was just like, I'm going to get up and put on my big black boots and go walk around outside. And I stumbled across this prayer that the Buddha had written called the Kalama Sutta. And then when I decided I wanted to use it, I had to break in illegally to the Buddha Center, which is closed from December to March, with my co-author, like Laverne and Shirley, Meredith Bryan, and flip over the top of this Buddhist fence to go write down the words to this to see if it was cleared and that we had the right to use it. So it was pretty funny. So this is the Kalama Sutta from the Buddha. Do not simply believe what you hear just because you have heard it for a long time. Do not follow tradition blindly merely because it has been practiced in that way for many generations. Do not be quick to listen to rumors. Do not confirm anything just because it agrees with your scriptures. Do not foolishly make assumptions. Do not abruptly draw conclusions by what you see and hear. Do not be fooled by outward appearances. Do not hold on tightly to any view or idea just because you are comfortable with it. Do not accept as fact anything that you yourself find to be logical. Do not be convinced of anything out of respect or deference to your spiritual teachers. You should go beyond opinion and belief, and you should rightly reject anything which, when accepted, practiced, and perfected, leads to more aversion, more craving, and more delusion. They are not beneficial and to be avoided. Conversely, you can rightly accept anything which, when accepted and practiced, leads to unconditional love, contentment, and wisdom. These things allow you time and space to develop a happy and peaceful mind. This should be your criteria on what is and what is not the truth, on what should be and what should not be the spiritual practice. So I just think that is such a great little guide for life. And yeah, I think I'm going to open this up to a Q&A because I'm going to get a read for where you guys want this to go. We'll start with a question, and then I'll talk longer after each question, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. Shall we?